Margaret Thompson had always considered herself careful. At 72 years old, she lived in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio, where her days were filled with gardening, volunteering at her local library, and calling her grandkids in the evenings. She paid her bills on time, checked her bank statements carefully, and never thought of herself as someone who could be tricked. But one evening, as the phone rang and the caller ID displayed a familiar number, Margaret's life changed. The voice on the line sounded exactly like her grandson, Jason. He was crying, panicked, saying he had been in a car accident and needed money immediately for bail. Margaret's heart raced. Without hesitation, she rushed to her desk drawer, grabbed her checkbook, and prepared to send money to the attorney Jason told her would call. What Margaret didn't know was that this was a scam, one of the fastest-growing schemes targeting older adults in America today. Margaret's story isn't unique. In fact, according to federal reports, seniors lose billions of dollars every year to scams like these. Criminals have discovered that older adults, many of whom are kind, trusting, and often isolated, make easy targets. And the worst part? These scams evolve constantly, making it harder and harder to tell truth from fraud. Across the United States, seniors like Margaret, Robert, Linda, and George are finding themselves caught in traps they never saw coming. Each of their stories sheds light on a different scam spreading rapidly among older adults. And through their experiences, we'll uncover what these scams look like, how they unfold, and most importantly, how to stay safe. Margaret's close call, the grandparent scam. Margaret nearly fell victim to what law enforcement calls the grandparent scam. Fraudsters use technology that mimics the voice of loved ones, making it sound like a grandchild or family member is in urgent trouble. When Margaret shared her experience later at her church group, several of her friends admitted they too had received calls that sounded eerily real. One friend, Paul, confessed that he actually withdrew $5,000 before realizing he had been tricked. The emotional pull of protecting a loved one is powerful. Scammers know this, and they exploit it without mercy. They create panic, use urgency, and count on seniors not stopping to think. Thankfully, Margaret paused just long enough to call Jason directly on his actual phone. When he picked up, perfectly fine at home, her knees nearly gave out. She realized she had almost mailed money to a criminal. The lesson Margaret learned became something she now shares with every senior group she visits. If you ever get a call from a family member in distress, hang up and call them back directly. Never send money without confirming first. Robert's story, the tech support scam. Robert Jenkins, a retired truck driver from Texas, was no stranger to computers. At 70 years old, he used his laptop every day to stay connected with his kids and order tools online. One afternoon, while searching for replacement parts for his lawnmower, his screen suddenly froze. A loud alarm blared, and a message appeared in bold letters. Warning: your computer has been infected. Call Microsoft support immediately at 1-800-XXX-XXXX. Panicked, Robert dialed the number. A calm, polite voice answered, claiming to be a Microsoft technician. The man instructed Robert to download a program that would fix the issue. Trusting the professional tone, Robert complied. Within minutes, the stranger had remote access to his computer. Robert didn't realize it, but he had just opened the door for scammers to steal his personal information, including his bank account logins. The technician told Robert that his computer was badly infected and demanded $400 to fix it. Feeling cornered, Robert reached for his credit card. Fortunately, his daughter Amanda happened to stop by that evening. When Robert proudly explained that he had solved his computer problem, Amanda's face dropped. She immediately shut the laptop, disconnected the internet, and called the bank to cancel his card. Robert was lucky. Many seniors lose thousands of dollars before realizing the so-called technician was never from Microsoft at all. Linda's ordeal, the romance scam. In Florida, 68-year-old Linda Matthews was recently widowed. Her friends encouraged her to join online dating sites to meet new people and rebuild her social life. That's where she met Richard, a kind, charming man who claimed to be an engineer working overseas. Richard and Linda exchanged messages daily. He sent her pictures, called her darling, and told her she made his life brighter. For months, Linda felt a sense of happiness she hadn't experienced since her husband passed away. But slowly, Richard began weaving financial requests into their conversations. First, he claimed his bank account was temporarily frozen and asked Linda to loan him $500. Then he needed money for medical bills. Finally, he begged for thousands to cover his flight back to the United States so they could finally be together. Linda sent him money again and again, believing his promises. By the time her daughter intervened, Linda had lost nearly $30,000. Romance scams like these are devastating, not only financially, but emotionally. Victims often feel embarrassed, ashamed, and heartbroken. Linda admitted later that what hurt most wasn't losing the money, but realizing that the man she loved never existed. George's warning: the Medicare scam. 75-year-old George Miller lived in Arizona and relied on Medicare for his health care. One afternoon, he received a call from someone claiming to be a Medicare representative. The caller explained that George's Medicare card needed to be updated and asked for his social security number and bank details. George, wanting to comply, began reading out the numbers. But halfway through, he hesitated. Something didn't feel right. He asked for the caller's name and employee ID. The line went silent, then disconnected. George later learned that scammers often pose as government workers, using threats of losing benefits to scare seniors into giving away sensitive information. Had George not paused, his bank account could have been emptied within hours. How seniors can stay safe. These stories show how scams take many forms, whether it's a fake emergency call, a bogus computer alert, a romance hoax, or a government impersonation. They all have one thing in common. They prey on trust, fear, and emotion. The good news is that awareness is the strongest defense. Seniors who share their stories, ask questions, and take time to verify details are far less likely to fall victim. Families can also play a role, checking in often, discussing new scams openly, and reminding loved ones that no legitimate agency will ever demand money or personal information over the phone. Margaret, Robert, Linda, and George now speak openly about their experiences. They admit it was hard to feel vulnerable, but they know their voices can protect others. Their courage turns their close calls into lessons for every senior across America. In the end, scams will keep evolving, but so can our defenses. By staying cautious, informed, and connected, seniors can continue to live their golden years with confidence, without fear of falling into a criminal's trap.